some background on this. Councilmember Crosslight and I have been the ad hoc committee on this, and we've met with Matthew and Alondra a couple of times, and the staff came up with some ideas for the formation of this committee. We met with Matthew and Alondra, and they have presented some of their ideas. And I want to keep in mind that we're trying to craft this thing, and so everything's open to discussion. But I wanted to hear from them, and it was important to me that we got input from young folks to get guidance on this. As background, I think maybe who's going to give the presentation?
We're going to split.
Okay, well, just come on up, both of you, if you don't mind, and go ahead and introduce yourself, and you can explain what Junior State of America is, and your interest in this in this Youth Leadership Council idea.
We would first, well, good evening, Mayor and fellow council members. One thing that we would like to ask is, did you get in the revised version of the preliminary document?
Yeah, the city attorney distributed that too.
Okay, thank you. So that's kind of an outline so far that we came up with of how we would like it structured. And if there's any questions on it, now would be a good time to ask.
Well, the first question I have is, you focus this through a club that's involved with the school. Is that correct? Okay. I'm presuming that you have a faculty advisor to that club?
Yes, we do.
Okay. Has there been any contact whatsoever with the school district to get any input from the school about whether or not or how we should work in tandem together on this? Because that faculty advisor is an employee of the school district, not the city. So have you talked to your advisor, and did you all meet with the school in any way?
I believe Mayor Proctor sent out an email to the school board and let them know kind of what's going on. And we've also been touching bases with our faculty advisor to see if there's any conflicts.
Yeah, I contacted the board member and also asked him to contact the others. So, I mean, we can certainly, going forward, have more involvement there. I was remiss on my part. So.
And staff hasn't had any direct contact at this point.
My only feeling is that if we were to go and involve this through, and I have no problem with the concept, but if we are to work through a club that's an organized part of the high school, then we really need to involve the school district in it. It is their personnel that's doing this, and we would basically be relying on your class or your club to provide some, people through that process. So I think it's one of those things where we should be working more collaboratively than alone.
And that's something that we'd also like to do, because one of our issues does involve everyone in the community, which we will get to.
Okay. So, and my other comment on here is I would appreciate it if you could clarify the first bullet point under powers and duties, because it doesn't read well in English. I don't know whether you're trying to say you want somebody present at a council meeting or you want them to present an item.
So it would be us. So usually just one of us presenting something like this.
Okay, then,
and we're providing an example.
Okay, so then when you get to that point, maybe you could clarify that language.
Yeah, we'll make sure to do so. And this is kind of just a first draft version, and it can always use refining.
Great.
So here's an example of something that we would be presenting.
Hang on, just a question from...
Yeah, I did a quick read through it, and thank you for your work on that. I'm curious, though, if there's been any attention to or I'd be interested in the selection process in terms of how the students are selected. So I didn't catch that. If it's in here, please point it out for me. But I just, like I said, I did a quick run through on the plane coming back from vacation. Oh, no, that was the other day. So I'm still jet lagged. But late last night when it came in, it looks great. Again, good work on it. Just curious about the selection of the students and how that happens. So I'd be interested in see how that is developed.
So how the 5 students would be selected from Santa Paula High School. So this is going through the Junior State of America Club, which is a political leadership club. So the type of students who would be involved in a matter like this are likely would would likely be a part of the club, and the club's open to everyone. So there's no matter of it's not inclusive to anyone, and so you get nominated by your peers, and then from there you have a ballot sheet of everyone, and then it's voted on. So you choose 5 members, and our our advisor tallies up the votes, and we get the winners. And then also we included something for, let's say, if someone goes to St. Bonnie, but they still live in Santa Paula, but wish to be a part of this, there's a way that they can be a part, and we included that in there.
I think if you want to go ahead and give your presentation, then I think Jenny and I can comment. We can kind of recapture what we discussed and kind of some of the thinking on some of the items. And once again, this is open to discussion by everyone, and we've been dealing with it for a while, so we're familiar, but certainly the council has to be brought along.
So here's a presentation of something that would be seen at a city council meeting. I'll let Alondra take it away.
Okay, so my name is Alondra. Like Matthew mentioned, we try to keep this presentation short. We didn't want to nail you down on the first day. We wanted you guys to like us. So here it goes. One of our concerns is roads in the city of Santa Paula. As you can see, and I'm sure you've heard that they aren't very safe. They need a lot of maintenance. So it's one of our concerns. Second, dropout rates. In Santa Paula, we have some of the highest dropout rates. We would like to see that changed and implementation. Also, gangs and gang violence. We'd like to see it fixed. And then lastly, farmers market. It's something we've been wanting to push further and get started in Santa Paula. So I kind of went through those quick. Is there any questions that we can address?
Do you, when you're discussing these items, I mean, you're right, roads always comes up, but I'm curious, fresh young minds, do you guys contemplate solutions to these and bring those forward as potential fixes?
We do in our club, we do mention these local events, and we have discussions and debates. We try to come with a solution, but there's only so much we can do at this point.
Sure, because only reason I mention that is because, you have, I'll say for myself, an old guy up here, trying to use the best ideas I've learned over the half a century I've been on the planet, and you guys are fresh, young, sharp minds, connected to social media, the internet, technology. I would really welcome your ideas for solutions to be incorporated in how we make this a better place to live. So really encourage that discussion. Okay.
We'll work on it.
Right on. Thanks.
Oh, yeah. And like I said earlier, this is kind of just a basis to start off of. So later on down the road, we'd like to start putting solutions up here, but here's just kind of a short and sweet version. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, and just stay up there. So, yeah, this was provided as an example of the type of things that you're going to be looking at. Mm-hmm. And your club, I think it's very interesting. It's once a week that you meet, and you have debates. Every time you pick a topic, and you guys are talking about that. But I think this is amazing. At that age, I didn't have any type of aspirations for this kind of thing. In my yearbook, it would have said least likely candidate to become a candidate. And so let's go through some of these things. And I know this is new to the council. When we met, Jenny and I met with, Council Member Crosswhite and I met with them. We were trying to come up with something that would be a simple structure. The 5-member thing just came about from the fact that in their club they have 5 officers. In terms of the terms, we're talking about 2 years. It really doesn't make a lot of sense because we have a student body that is moving from class to class. And so typically in your group, I think you said there are very few, if any, freshmen, and then you have sophomores, juniors, and seniors. So you're going to have people going out on any given year. You guys will be leaving us, unfortunately, right? And so there will be a change. It won't be static, that's for sure. So I don't see any need to establish a term per se, except that we decided that the September 1st to August 31st, Councilmember Crosslight, would you remind me how we came up with that?
Because we decided that rather than having it go with our fiscal year, which didn't match the school year, that it might be a good idea to have their terms line up with their school year. And so we figured most people, if you were a senior and you're going off to college, you'd be going off August or September, and that would give between the end of the year would be probably June, May, June. They would be choosing the students who would be on the Youth Leadership Council for the next year. And so that way, over that summer, they could make sure that the current members sort of mentored those who would be taking over, that then would take over after the new school year started. So that was how we had come up with those terms.
Could I ask a question on that also? I know Alondra is, and she's one of the Rotary Scholarship winners. I know she's leaving. Did you win one too?
Yes, I did.
That's what I thought. They both won Rotary Scholarship. In fact, he was the only gentleman who won a Rotary Scholarship. But do you have people that are lined up to follow up with this after you both leave in June and head off to college?
Yes, we have. So we kind of did a preliminary election of who we'd like to be on board with this. And one of them's a junior and the other one's a sophomore.
Okay. When do kids sign up for clubs? Because I thought that was after the school year started.
Yeah. So it is usually in August, September of the first year. But usually the elections to hold office for your clubs are the prior year. So it kind of just makes more sense if you choose it when you do your officers.
But they don't take office until the following year. Is that?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. That way you have them in the queue.
Maybe we should discuss the age, because I know the staff report for, versus what we had discussed was a little bit different. And so would you guys like to speak to the conversation around the age range?
So we said in the draft we wrote down that one of the memberships would be to be enrolled in a high school. You must reside in Santa Paula, and you must be in the ages between 14 to 18. Like I said before, a high school, enrolled in a high school.
Okay, well, I was going to make a little correction to what I remember from our conversation is that I think we didn't want to have the specific age range because that would throw out, say, there could be a senior who's 19.
Right.
And there could be, someone who's younger, a great achiever. I'm sure we'll have some of those here. So I thought it might be just simpler to say that they're enrolled in high school, and that's not specifically Santa Paula High School necessarily either. Because we wanted to leave, as Matthew said, a wild card. If someone really is interested, that we establish a procedure, maybe through the council, of appointing an extra person. And in terms of the presentations, I'm going off point here a little bit. I talked to Mike Siddell from Simi Valley, who was a former city manager. They had they had a similar program, and it wasn't the same student that would present every time, and so it'd be kind of a rotating thing. And what I'd like to picture is having one of you sit at the dais just at the beginning of the meeting, one of your club, and then we would have that early in the meeting as a presentation, and then of course you wouldn't be a voting member of the council, but that was also something else that I was considering. And I think that's what Mike had told me, that you had sort of a rotating stock of presenters. All right. Any other questions? I'm not sure exactly what's the council's pleasure yet.
I have one question for the city attorney. Could you speak to when it talks about the Brown Act and the Youth Leadership Council? Could you explain that for the benefit of both our youth and our council?
Sure. The Brown Act is our open meeting laws, and it, for the purposes of this committee, relates to whether or not you create a standing committee where you have two council members appointed on that standing committee working with a member of 1, 2, 3, or 4 youths. In that situation, because you've created a standing committee, it has a particular meeting time and continuing subject matter jurisdiction, you've created a Brown Act body that's subject to our open meeting laws. So in that respect, it has to be agendized, has to be open to the public, and certain other procedural requirements have to be met with. So that was the notation in the staff report related to the Brown Act. You don't have to do it that way. If you're just going to have a member of the club come and sit at the meeting, you don't need to have those types of meetings don't have to be governed by the Brown Act to the extent they're not sitting at a council meeting. So I don't know if that was clear. But.
Because what we have now is an ad hoc committee, and that's sort of a special purpose, and
right. It has an infinite. It doesn't go on forever.
Right. Exactly. So we have to contemplate there, because I think it would be valuable for us to keep contact with them, but then we'll have to figure out the logistics of doing open public meetings, which also brings up something else that Matthew and Alondra had brought up along with Councilmember Crosswhite, and that's the idea of sort of youth town halls to address that that inclusivity issue, and so that they could get more input from different kids. Now that's something that I'm thinking too would be we'd probably end up posting those meetings, particularly since other council members, the whole council could attend if they wanted to. So, and I think that was a valuable idea. Because I understand the concerns of other council members, and I have the same thing going with this. How do you make sure that you're including, everyone, and also it's just their club is such a good fit that I just wanted to have the the discussion here.
So did we ever at any point clarify what that process would be for someone who did not attend Santa Paula High School and was not part of JSA? Because the other thing that occurred to me, I believe it was yesterday evening, is that we have a fairly good number of homeschooled students that might also be interested in something like this. And I know we hadn't talked about that. I didn't think about it initially when we had our conversation. And so I'm just wondering, do we have a process for how they would be chosen? Because that's probably a good idea.
Yeah.
Okay. I believe I outlined it in the one which I wrote. So what it would consist of is, let's say if you have one or possibly another person running, they'd be a part of a, let's say, a meeting like this. So right here, they kind of give their short presentation on why they feel that they should be included. Is a 6-member slot, and then from there, a vote would be held between the city council on whether or not they will be included. So that'd be whether there's one up to who knows how many running.
Yeah.
And just a suggestion at this time, Mayor, just an aside, the school board was recently confronted with the potential participation of students in private schools in the athletic sector and took a position against it. So it might behoove us to go ahead and make contact with whoever your contact was on the board and at least broach that subject before it becomes an issue and work on that. Thanks.
But this is a little bit different in the sense that this is a city function as opposed to a school function, even though we want their cooperation. But it would seem to me that if we are going to solicit or allow for people that are not going to Santa Paula High School, that we should have some kind of direct outreach to St. Augustine, St. Bonaventure, and to the homeschooled kids, just by notification that this is available, so that they can apply should they choose to do so.
Okay. And that occurred to me when we were doing the language for this. I wanted to say it enrolled at high school level, and that way that would cover homeschool people. I'm looking at the way this is going, and I sense that we probably want to get together with the school board and talk about this. Do we have enough direction, do you think, to to get that going?
If I may, Mayor, again, I've got two issues. One for city attorney, and that is, with Brown Act. So currently, so we're referring to it as a youth leadership council. If it's an advisory body, does that make a difference if you did not appoint 2 council members to sit on that? I mean, maybe you have 1 council person or maybe just a staff person that keeps the coordination going with them and they act as in an advisory role. Does that still require Brown Act notifications?
And there weren't two members of the council appointed to assist in that committee?
Correct.
That would not, those meetings would not be subject to the Brown Act.
Okay. So reason I'm asking is I'm seeing, I love the idea. I just want to try to minimize impact on staff, because if it's noticed, then you've got to have, agendas out, and then you've got to have some kind of, I don't know whether or not you want to have it publicly recorded and so forth. So, but it still gets to the same purpose of what these youth are providing us, and that's some input and direction and topics based on what they're hearing in the community. So they really are, in essence, without a vote, as you pointed out earlier, are acting in an advisory body. So just something for consideration. Secondly, I'm really, again, interested in the selection of these individuals. Right now, not that you don't have the energy for it, but you're putting the onus of selection. From what I'm hearing so far, currently your idea is to have this nomination process and then they're voted by among your peers. Maybe that ought to be thought through a little bit more in terms of how that's actually done, because not that we have a better way of selecting things, because my wife will tell you, all my taste is in my mouth. But so I just would like that maybe another option of how that selection happens, whether it's through the staff, the city staff, or they bring in a list of nominations to the council and then we choose. I don't know, but I'm just kind of stuck on that right now.
Mayor, from staff's research that was done previously, I think there's probably maybe two ways we can, or two angles to this. One is their private internal selection for their school club, and then a separate would be the city's selection of the participants as a city advisory group. So we would, similar to some of your other commissions and boards that you form, we would publicize it, advertise. Obviously, they would have their selected members, and any other youth in the community could apply, and we would bring those to you as a group, and you would select from that, depending on the number of slots that you have available. Just an idea to try to simplify and follow some of your other procedures that you already have in place.
And if I may add, I think that kind of the second option speaks a little bit more in terms towards the inclusivity of the other high schools, private or homeschool individuals as well. I'm not sure how comfortable they would be, and maybe I'm not understanding the generation as much as when I was one, right? But someone from a private school going to your committee to ask to be nominated to be on this leadership council. So, does that make sense? You look confused.
Well, no, that was not my understanding of those other slots. One idea would be to say there's 5 slots or there's 6 slots, and 4 of them maybe would come through the high school, and then there would be some other process for choosing the other 2. So it wouldn't be the kids from Santa Paula High School choosing those other 2 slots. It would be them choosing their peers, and I think that there's something empowering, at least in my own mind, about them having the opportunity to choose who they want to represent them and to speak for them, and then maybe having an alternate process for those other potentially 1 or 2 slots. That was sort of the thought that I had.
Another concern I had when we talked about the inclusivity, once again, I asked them how many people are in the club, and he said there's about 20. And so it's not just a clique of 5 kids that are going to be nominating themselves. And secondly, I would hope that this might engender more interest in terms of getting more membership for you guys.
Yes.
So anyway, I wanted to make that clear that it's not. At first I had no idea how many people were there. I think at this point we've got a lot to cover tonight. What's the council's pleasure? Do you think, Elizabeth? Do you feel like you have enough to maybe recraft some things, and then we'll come back and we also need. I have to personally make contact with the school board, as does the city, and that was my oversight on this.
Yeah, we can develop some draft policies and procedures with the draft resolution, and maybe sit down with them and with Mayor and Councilmember Crossride and kind of get everything fleshed. And if it looks like that's something that we're all on board with, bring it back.
Last comment. and you know, what I'm used to seeing is bylaws, and I know there's other ways to do things, but I think one thing that I think that would be important to have, because it inevitably will come up, is, you know, how to, I hate to bring it up, but it comes up inevitably, is how do you dismiss a member? You know, how does that process happen? They don't show up for 3 meetings in a row, then they're automatically replaced, that kind of thing, you know, that are typically a part of a boilerplate bylaw.
Okay.
That might be helpful to have in place too.
The only issue or comment that I'd like to make at this point is that we're closing rapidly on the end of the school year. And in order for us to come up with some kind of final rules that these kids can participate in helping to make, and to actually get people selected before the school year ends, you know, we're looking at a June 10th, some very, very short time window. And I'm just not sure we're going to be able to get all of that done, frankly, between now and then with the budget and everything else. I'm just saying that's kind of reality. This may not get off the ground till the fall.
Yeah. I'm here till September 25th, so we got plenty of time.
Well, thank you. And also, certainly you guys are welcome. While we were trying to form these ideas, and if you want to bring just a presentation from your club, you know, formal committee aside, we would like to hear from you too. That was the whole idea for doing this. So anyway, so with that, I think we don't really need a motion, do we? Do you feel comfortable with direction, or? Okay, and
so I'll just say we move to receive and file, and direct Elizabeth to bring something to us next time.
Yeah.
Or when available.
Yeah, and we'll meet and we'll try to get this done as quickly as we can. So
thank you.
Anyway,
thank you once again.
Thank you. You know, I know that it's kind of nervous time sometimes up there, and you held up very well. Grace under pressure. You know?
Thank you.
Okay.